Good afternoon everyone. I just wanted to take some time just to update you for arrangements for return to school in 2 weeks' time. The holidays are beginning to come to an end, still lots of holiday left yet, but they're beginning to come to an end, and I'm sure some of you are thinking about arranging what is going to be needed for September. So I just wanted to point you in the right direction as to where you'll find all that information and just share a little bit of information with you first. So as you can see, I'm here on our school website, so just navigate to the website www.st-peters-farnworth.bolton.sch.uk and you'll arrive at our website page here. The page you need to go to can be accessed in two ways. If you go to latest news, you'll see here, what do I need to know about the 21-22 academic year? You can either click on that link there, or alternatively I've actually put a button straight away on the home page, so just scroll down the home page a little and click on the button, what do I need to know about the academic year 21-22. Clicking on there and actually will open this page here. What do I need to know about September and the academic year 21-22, which is the academic year coming forward. So this information is correct and it's been written in accordance with the government latest legislation or latest guidance, which was produced last week. So fresh, hot off the press information from the government about COVID and about arrangements that need to be made. And quite a few things have changed, but similarly, quite a few things that were in place last year are rolling forward and are still going to stay in place. Certainly for the autumn term at least anyway. COVID hasn't gone away, it's just that the government are trying to help us get our lives a little bit more back to normal, a little bit nearer to what we're used to, but we still have to understand that COVID is still in our communities and is still out there, and therefore there's no point taking too many risks with it. We need to still minimise the risk of transmission, we need to still do things carefully, do things sensibly, and do things that will keep you and your children and our staff and our community safe. So what's happened? What are the government saying? It's saying that all childcare settings are open and attendance is mandatory. Always has been. You're strongly encouraged to send your child to school. Strongly encouraged doesn't quite say exactly what it means. It's actually against the law not to. So it's about making sure we're back at school, back into normal routines. The Royal College of Paediatrics has said that overwhelmingly children and young people still have very few symptoms if they do get COVID and have a very mild illness, many of which are actually asymptomatic. It's important that we continue to do our rapid tests. So the staff, once again, they'll be doing tests twice a week. So you can be sure that the staff that are teaching your children are COVID-free. They've done their tests and they're coming into school and are clear. And secondary schools, those of you who have brothers or sisters in secondary school or older siblings, they will be testing on site before they go to secondary school for the first time. And actually they'll be then doing home testing before they go into school as well during the autumn term. So this is a big change. Our school, so St Peter's, we will no longer be contact tracing. So in the past, if we became aware of a child or an adult who had tested positive for COVID, it was our job to then identify all the contacts and tell those contacts that they needed to isolate also. Hence the closure of bubbles that were happening last term. So if we found out that a member of the class had COVID, we had to close the entire bubble and ask the entire bubble to isolate. That has now changed. So if we find out that there is a COVID positive case in our school, that case will be referred to the NHS track and trace process and school will simply continue as normal. The NHS track and trace system will be the system that is used for contacts of that positive case to be identified. And the big one that has changed is that children, that's classified as anybody under the age of 18 years and 6 months, so anybody who's less than 18 years 6 months, even if they are identified as a close contact, so even if they have been in contact with somebody who has tested positive, the big difference is they no longer need to isolate. They are advised, very strongly advised, to get a test, a PCR test, but they are no longer being told to isolate. Similarly, adults who are double vaccinated, they are no longer being told that they, by law, must isolate. They're being advised to take a PCR test. So that does mean we won't be sending home swathes and swathes of children and telling them to isolate because they've been in contact with a positive case. Now, what we did see last year is that lots of people who did come into contact with a positive case, they themselves did ultimately go on to test positive at a later date. Fortunately, that happened whilst they were in isolation. Therefore, the onward transmission link was broken. What's possibly and potentially going to happen this year is that there may be a positive case comes into school. We will be aware of it. People will be identified as close contacts, but the staff, the vast majority, will have been vaccinated, and the children no longer need to isolate anyway. So we won't be asking routinely for those people to then isolate. They'll still be allowed to come to school. However, that's the point at which we'll need to be very, very careful, because that's the point at which we'll need to determine if a child becomes symptomatic, they must leave the premises immediately, they must start to isolate. And if a child then goes on to test positive, that positive case must then also isolate. So it's important that we're very, very vigilant about this. I will let you know if positive cases are in school. Like I say, it won't be closing bubbles, won't be sending everybody home, but we will be asking you to ensure that you test children regularly, so that if they do go on to become positive, they don't come into school as a positive case. And hopefully that will help to keep our community safe. And in fact, another big change is the children do not need to remain in a consistent bubble. There's no requirement from the government this year to keep children in bubbles. That said, your children are in classes. The classes don't really have many needs to mix, and we're going to ensure that mixing is limited. So things like children are going to have their dinner together as a class, they're going to go out to play together as a class, they're not going to be moving around school very often. But really that isn't very much different to what it was before. Children are in their class, with their teacher, with their friends, enjoying their education. It's not a bubble, but it is a class. And that's not really any different to what you or I were used to at going to school. We were with our class and with our classmates. The government is removing the requirement to wear face coverings in law, but it does expect and in fact recommends that they're worn in enclosed and crowded spaces where you might come into contact with people. If you wish to wear a face mask, we will strongly encourage that. That is not a problem to us. And in fact, what we will continue to be asking is if visitors do actually come into the school building, we will be requesting that for the safety of everybody, face coverings are worn. There is no mandate about that. There's nothing to say you have to, but just for the sake of everybody, it would be good if we would. So you will probably still see staff wearing face coverings outside on the playgrounds. If you wish to wear face coverings when you're in closed or in crowded spaces, please do so. That's absolutely fine. And certainly if you were to come into school, into the actual building, our visitor protocol is that you would sanitise your hands as normal and come into the building, and we would ask that you would wear a face covering just for the sake of everybody's safety. So further information, our full and detailed risk assessment is here. If you were to click on this risk assessment here, it would open a very detailed piece of paper that talks about lots of risk assessment, what the risk there is, and how we're putting things in place to minimise that risk. So again, things like the children will be doing lots of hand washing as normal. The building will be being cleaned very, very regularly, as it always was. Face coverings will be in place. Not overly mixing of children. mixing where necessary, mixing where it helps education, mixing where it means we can give a better quality of education, but not doing it if we don't need to. So risk assessment here, and again, it can be found here, the latest COVID risk assessment on the latest news tab. Okay, so the government is saying really the only thing that's changed is the use of bubbles. Other things are still in place. So ensuring good hygiene for everyone, using the catch it, kill it, bin it for sneezes, making sure our hands are washed. All those things are just good health and hygienic practices anyway. Even if COVID didn't exist, they stop the spread of colds and sniffles. So those things the government are asking us to keep in place, and we will do. Maintain appropriate cleaning regimes. Mr Wells and his cleaning team and Mrs Brown and the office facilities management team, they'll be making sure that school is equally as clean as it always has been. We pride ourselves on having a beautifully clean and tidy school, and that will continue, and they'll be continuing regular cleaning of the toilets, regular cleaning of touch spots, handles, the photocopier. When the staff use it, they'll still be wiping it down with disinfectant wipes. The button that you press to come in and out of the school, there's disinfectant wipes there, just to make sure everything where you might be lots of people touching a particular place, that will still be cleaned very, very regularly. The staff room won't be overly occupied and overly populated. We'll still be spreading ourselves out and being sensible in that way. The government is also asking us to keep our occupied spaces, our classrooms, well ventilated. Now that's fine. In fact, just before we broke up in the summer, it would have almost been impossible to be in those classrooms without having the windows open. They were baking. Those south-facing windows in Upper Key Stage 2 are they make the classrooms very, very warm. But it's not always like that, and sometimes the classrooms are actually quite cold. But we will still always have our classroom windows open. And the latest government initiative is they're going to be providing CO2 monitors for classrooms, so you'll actually be able to recognise that the amount of carbon dioxide in that classroom is getting a little bit too high, and be able to recognise that there's not enough fresh air or ventilation in that room. Now, we don't know when the carbon dioxide monitors are going to arrive, but we've been told they will be arriving at some point during the autumn term. So of course when they do, we'll put those in place. But in the meantime, we will be keeping all the windows open. We will be propping doors open where they're not fire doors. We will be getting a flow of air through the building, as we always did. Now on cold days, that might mean your children are a little bit chilly. So we would ask that you just provide them with layers, things that they can put on, things that they can take off. Still in line with our uniform policy, but things that they can adjust so they can regulate their temperature. And we also are told we have to follow public health advice on testing, self-isolation, and managing confirmed cases. So the testing is around the staff. The staff will be doing regular lateral flow tests. Positive contacts of positive cases will also be asked to do PCR tests, and we'll be strongly encouraging that. So if a child in the class becomes positive, all the other children in that class will be asking for them to be PCR tested. We won't be telling them they have to stay away from school unless they are positive or have symptoms themselves, but we will be asking them to be tested. And managing confirmed cases, we'll be following all the NHS guidance, which we always did. Not easy decisions sometimes, but the best decisions for everybody's safety. So it means your children will be still regularly washing or sanitising their hands. They will be still using the catch it, kill it, bin it sneezing policy for tissues and coughing into the crook of their arm there. Windows will be open, so all those things will still be in place. So what are the rules on mixing and bubbles? Well, there are none. The rules on mixing and bubbles have gone. There's no social distancing requirement. We've still got the banners on the fences saying 2 metres is good. We're still going to say, please, let's only have one person in the office space. That's good practice. It's not law and it's not requirement. But if we did it last year, let's just carry on doing those things that are safe. COVID has not gone. So let's live with it, but let's live with it safely. So there's still things we are going to be doing that will limit those contacts and limit that transmission. So things like, we're still going to carry on with those staggered starts and finish times. They worked, and they worked really well. They actually worked and brought benefits for other reasons. So I'll scroll down a little bit and talk to you about that, but we're still going to carry on with those things. You know, we're still going to limit the number of classes on the playground at any one time. We had fewer bumps and scrapes and scratches last year than we've ever had. And that's because we spread out the playtimes and had fewer children on the playground at any one time. So the playground was in use quite a lot, but it wasn't all at the same time for all the same children. The classes staggered it. It really worked. And so why not carry on with it? Good practice. We're still going to have that family style seating in the dinner hall. The children will come in, there will be a choice of menu, so they will go through the hatch and choose their meal, but then they'll sit in their place with their friends and they'll stay there all together till their dinner time is over, and then they'll all leave together to have their playground outside time. So it'll be a family feel, not that quick fly through the hatch, eat my dinner back out, which is what was the case 2 or 3 years ago. So we're going to limit unnecessary movement around school. If you don't have to move around, let's bring things to you rather than you go to them, so that we're not moving around school and mixing with people that we don't need to. It does, however, mean that we can have assemblies again, which is fantastic news. But again, we're not going to go back into 420 children in our hall. Interestingly, when I started at St Peter's, there were 175 children on roll in that hall, and it was fine. There's now 420 children on roll, and it's a little bit squashed in there, I've got to say. So we're not going to all squash back into the hall at the same time. We're going to have assemblies split. So it might be blue classes one day, green classes another day. It might be infant classes one day, junior classes another day. We have the rota, it's all organised and it's all planned. But we're going to reintroduce assemblies, which I can't wait, which is brilliant. So what does the guidance say about face coverings? It says you don't have to wear them. It does, however, also say that it recommends that you do. So we're going to keep with that recommendation, as I spoke earlier. Please visit this website page and read all the information. I'm just doing a whistle-stop tour here for you. And again, what happens if my child is a close contact of a positive case? So your child isn't positive themselves, but they are a contact of a positive case. In the past, that would have meant they had to isolate. That is no longer a requirement. However, it is suggested, as I've alluded to before, that they are tested. So they continue to come to school, but they get tested. And if they then themselves go on to test positive, they would then need to isolate. But close contacts, children who are close contacts, or adults who are close contacts but are double vaccinated, here we are, fully vaccinated, below 18, you do not need to isolate if you are a contact. You do need to isolate if you are positive or you are symptomatic. Being symptomatic means you possibly have it, you just haven't got that positive test to affirm it yet. But so symptomatic, you do still stay at home. Positive, you do still stay at home. Not positive, close contact, come to school, but get tested. So it's highly unlikely that classes will be closed. Highly unlikely. Things may change. There might be an outbreak in Bolton once again, and we might be directed by public health to make changes and do different things. If a large number of children test positive in a class, then we may be advised to escalate our responses, but the standard practice will be that you do not need to isolate. You need to still come to school unless you are positive or you are symptomatic. And NHS track and trace will be the people responsible for that. It won't be an email from school anymore. Although we would supplement the information with an email, it wouldn't be the school that are actually sending that information out to you. What should you do if you suspect your child has coronavirus or has a positive test? You don't even need to read that. You keep them at home. We know that. We isolate. So don't send your child to school. They're showing symptoms. they've had a positive test, or there's another reason requiring them to stay at home, for example, quarantine. Okay, so that's all. At the top half of the page is all about coronavirus information and things that are important related to coronavirus and what will be happening. The rest of the page is general information about next year. So who will your child's teacher be? That was their teacher last year. This will be their teacher this year. When does school start? Clicking on that will give you the holiday list, so you know the dates when we finish and the dates when we return to school. Clicking on it, there you go. School reopens after the summer break on Tuesday the 7th of September. Tuesday the 7th of September. Okay, and then we break up for half term. We're off school on the Friday, so we break up on the Thursday the 21st. So half term is the Friday and then the rest of the following week, and term ends on the 21st of December. But the holiday list is there for you to see. Okay, so here we go again. What will the start and finish times be? So we are continuing with the staggering that we had last term. There's very little implication for the vast majority of classes. Reception to year 4 is exactly the same as it always was. 10 to 9, 3:15. Different gates of entry, the gates that we used last year, different places to come in, but there's very little difference in the timing. For year 4 moving into year 5, you have a difference, but for year 5 moving into year 6, you continue with your start and finish times that you had when you were in year 5. So the year 5 and 6 start and finish times are 9 o'clock till 3:25. Okay, so for year 4 you have a change, so you're coming in through the same gate, but whereas year 4s you would come in first and all the year 5s would have to stand outside, you're part of that year 5 team now, so you'll just wait for the year 4s to come in and then the year 5s can come in onto the playground. Now, because mixing and bubbles are no longer relevant or no longer there by law, the stringency with which we apply that won't be as strict. However, it's beneficial and it's better for everybody if year 5 and year 6 you don't arrive earlier than that time, because you're going to have to wait around for a long time anyway. It means there's congestion on the roads, there's more children round about school. By staggering it in this way, it actually means the flow of children and the flow of adults moving around our very tight perimeter is better for everybody. So it would be better if reception to year 4 you came at 10 to 9, between 10 to 9 and 9 o'clock, sauntered into school, and by 9 o'clock you were in the building, so that then between 9 o'clock and 9:10 year 6 and year 5 can wander into school, walk into school calmly and sensibly, get the hand sanitisation done and be in class. And again, at the end of the day, 3:15 finish from all the different gates of exit, reception on Lark Street, year 1 and year 2 from their classroom doors, so year 1 round the back, adjacent to St Peter's Terrace on the fire doors from the year 1 classrooms, year 2 from the classrooms that lead out on the doors that lead out onto the Key Stage 1 playground, year 3 on the side door on Lark Street, year 4 the Key Stage 2 door onto the Key Stage 2 playground onto Bradford Street, and then year 5 and 6 you will come out of the side entrance onto Lark Street for year 5 and the Key Stage 2 entrance onto Bradford Street for year 6 at 3:25. For our year 3s, that will make it so much safer, because in the past, when everybody came out at the same time, and our new year 3s children, who for the first time are actually not quite as tied to their parents at the end of the day, it's a little bit scary to try and find where your parent is. And the way it worked last year was so much safer, particularly for those younger Key Stage 2 children, and that's why we're going to carry that on. So year 3 parents, it tells you here where to wait. So year 3, 3:15, if you wait on the grassed area at the top corner of the Key Stage 2 playground, your children will be brought to you by Mr Wakes and Miss Bailey and will be taken to that area. That's where it would be safe for them to be handed to you at 3:15. I can see the only difference being here again is the 5s and 6s. You start at 9 and you finish at 3:25. Again, visit this website, study it, look at it carefully for the information you need. What do you need to wear? You need to wear St. Peter's uniform, and only St. Peter's uniform. We're very proud of that. By clicking on this link here, it will take you to a page all about our school uniform, what our uniform is, what our expectations are. The one big expectation is that you will wear shoes. You will not wear trainers. You will wear shoes, please, black ones. And like I say, it might be chilly, so put a jumper and a cardigan on. Put a vest underneath your t-shirt, it's fine. Things you can take off and things that you can put back on if it's chilly and we've got those windows open. But please wear our uniform. Like I say, clicking on the uniform page there will take you to, I'll make sure that link works. It will take you to the uniform. There we go. Okay, so all our uniform, all the information about our uniform there, what you should be wearing, footwear, jewellery, hairstyles, PE kit, PE safety notice, where can you buy it, okay? And there's information there about the contacts. Okay, snacks and school dinners. The school dinner menu is there. If you want your child to move on to school dinners, please let us know. We can organise that very, very easily. Mrs. Brown will organise that, and Mrs. Pyle in the office. There will be a choice of menu available again. We will be going through the hatch, but like I say, you'll then take your tray and sit down with your friends, and you'll have your own reserved seat, like in a restaurant. You'll sit at your place, at your table. Okay, more information again here about school dinners. However, you need to make sure you've got a parent pay account. Now, the vast majority of you will have. Our new reception children, once you are admitted on the first day of school, you'll go into Sims and your parent pay accounts will be set up, and that's fine. That's where you will pay for your dinners, pay for your snack, pay for anything else that we ask for, really. So we're not handling money in school. So parent pay, any information you need to know about parent pay, please speak to Mrs. Brown or Mrs. Pyle. They'll sort all of that out for you. Reception, year 1 and year 2, you get your meal free, regardless as to whether you are statutorily entitled to that. Bolton Authority continuing to make sure that reception, year 1 and year 2 children get a free school dinner. Year 2s, moving into year 3, if you're entitled to free school meals, you'll still get your free school meal in year 3. However, if you are not statutorily entitled to free school meals, you'll have to start paying for your meals, again through parent pay, or your child can move on to packed lunches, that's fine. Morning snacks are available. Again, pay and book those in advance through parent pay. If you need wraparound care, our breakfast club will run as normal. Again, it has to be booked and paid for in advance. And this is the important thing. If you need breakfast club on a Monday morning, you can't book it on the Sunday night. Bookings close 48 hours in advance. So you need to book it Friday at the very latest. So you need to book your breakfast club 48 hours in advance of needing it. Book and pay for it, and that place will be reserved. If you just turn up, maybe you'll be lucky, and maybe there will be a place, and maybe we will let them come in, but I can't guarantee it. So just make sure you book and pay for that breakfast club place in advance. Give us a ring if there's any problems. Walking bus, not starting again yet, but probably very shortly into the autumn term we'll look at that, review it and start the walking bus, which means children can meet on Tesco's car park at 8:30. There'll be members of staff there to meet you, and at about 20 to 9, quarter to 9, that the group of children that have arrived there will be walked safely to school by the staff. Cuts down on traffic around school, and you can make sure you've handed your child safely to somebody at 8:30 on the car park and they'll walk to school together. Like I say, we're not going to do that the first week, probably not the second, but we'll very quickly review that and look at the staff availability, look at the planning for it and get that in place as soon as we can. School attendance, mandatory. Children have to come to school unless they are positive or they are symptomatic. And even if they are symptomatic, they'll be expected to get a test, and if that test is negative, they can come to school. Unless they're too ill to do so, of course, that's our only rule. Children must come to school unless you are too ill to do so. School behaviour rules, just as they were. Brilliant children at St Peter's, let's keep it that way. Let's make sure we can all learn, sparkle and shine. More information about our behaviour policies there. If school closes again, or you have to isolate at home, highly unlikely at the moment the entire bubbles or the entire school will be asked to isolate. I can't see us going back there, but neither am I a fortune teller, so we don't know. So our remote learning policy will still be in place, still be good to go. In the first week, your child will find out their Purple Mash logins and their Microsoft Teams logins, their TT Rockstars logins. All of those will still be in place for remote learning, and the school blogs also will be up and running. Learning at home here, the links here, links to our school blogs, link to our remote learning policy, link a video guide to our remote learning policy, so you don't have to sit and read it. You can hear me talk about what our remote learning policy is. TT Rockstars, all of those things are available there, and if we do have to go to remote learning, we're ready, and it can happen quickly. Similarly, those children who are isolating, now really the only reason you would be isolating would be if you're a positive case or you're symptomatic, which means you're ill. So really, if you're ill, you shouldn't be worrying about your education. You should be worrying about getting better. But if you're positive and you're asymptomatic, so you're a positive case, so you can't come into school, but you're not ill, then there is an expectation that you will engage with remote learning, and your remote learning will continue as normal. So you will do your 20 minutes of reading, you'll do your 20 minutes of TT Rockstars, you'll do your 20 minutes of learning your spellings, you will not log on to Purple Mash for your to-dos, and possibly you'll also get a Microsoft Teams meeting with your teacher. Not necessarily though, because your teacher will obviously be busy teaching the rest of your class. And finally, assessments. There is an expectation that SATs, reception baseline, multiplications table check in year 4, key stage 2 SATs, they'll all start again in the next academic year. So we will be preparing for that to happen. So that should be everything you need to know. Obviously, watch this video as many times as you want so you can get as much information as you need. Like I say, visit the website. What do I need to know about the 21-22 academic year? School is closed for next week, the week before we come back to school, but it's open the day after Bank Holiday Monday, so we'll be open for those 4 days before we actually start school the week after. We're having a school second-hand goods and a uniform sale on Friday, the 3rd of September, I think it is. Certainly that Friday, before we come back to school the following week. So bob down to Key Stage 2 Playground, grab yourself a uniform bargain. Some really good pieces of uniform there that have been hardly worn, and they are very, very good value for money, and also help all that clothing not going into landfill, so it's good for recycling as well. Any questions, email the school. Probably won't get a response immediately like you normally do, but you'll get a response as quickly as we can once the emails are being checked once a day. So you'll get an email at some point within 48 hours of emailing in. Looking forward to seeing you all again. Hope that's helpful. Take care, enjoy the rest of your holiday, and I will see you all soon.